you. And on the line with us, this is going to be fascinating. On the line with us is Lisa Rosenberg, the executive director of Open the Government. OpenTheGovernment.org is the website, and you can tweet her at Lisa RosenBRG or at OpenTheGov. Lisa, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me. Thanks for joining us.
So the House of Representatives just passed the new FISA bill, and it's going to the Senate where Rand Paul is threatening to filibuster it. First of all, what is this bill? Number one. Number two, how is it different from previous bills, if at all? And then number three, of course, the big topic, what does it mean for us?
Sure. So the FISA bill, or the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, is a bill that was enacted and designed to help our intelligence communities detect foreign national security threats. The problem with this bill is a section that's known as Section 702. But what that bill does is when the intelligence agencies collect information of communications, emails, cell phone conversations, et cetera, from foreign people who they have reason to believe may be engaged in terrorist activities. They're also often collecting communications of U.S. citizens. So if you're talking on the phone or emailing somebody abroad and that person is swept up in this foreign intelligence gathering, then you, as a U.S. citizen, your communications are also going to be swept up and kept in this massive database.
Yeah, which I do on a daily basis. Two of the people who work on this show are based overseas. It's amazing.
Right, and if they're in that database, then you're in that database. And then the problem, from our perspective, is that then your information, your communications can be searched. The FBI can go into that database and look for information about you without a warrant, with absolutely no Fourth Amendment protections whatsoever. The bill that passed today really didn't do much to change that. They sort of tweaked around the edges a little bit, but basically it's the same bill that's been in law, the same provision that's been in law for many years now. But this time there was a real push to put some limits on what the FBI could do. So require the FBI to have a warrant so that those constitutional protections would apply to you and me. But unfortunately, the House that voted today, despite, like I said, an effort to amend this provision, that went down, and the House voted to pass basically the same provision that has been enacted or in law for a number of years.
Politicians both. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Our problem from we advocate for transparency, for accountability. We believe the government's more accountable, if it is transparent, if the citizens know what's going on. In addition to just ignoring our Fourth Amendment rights, the problem with this bill is, you, as a citizen, you're not going to know if the FBI or other law enforcement are even using this database to get information about you. You have no way to really defend yourself or say it's inaccurate, or you don't even know if it's being used. And we think that's a real problem with accountability.
Yeah, it certainly flies in the face of due process. We've seen in so many other realms of American policy, whether it's foreign policy, whether it's domestic policy, a situation where policies that are even broadly agreed on among Democrats and Republicans, like, for example, drug prices should come down, get blown up because of corporate lobbying. In the case of Medicare Part D, it's illegal now for Medicare to negotiate drug prices, to buy in bulk at a lower price and then distribute those savings and those drugs to Medicare recipients. It's illegal because of the lobbyists, because lobbyists got in on the act and basically bought the votes of both Democrats and Republicans. I mean, the Medicare Part D was, I think, a classic example of that. To what extent, and we've been hearing for years now, I mean, particularly since the Patriot Act got rolled out right after 9/11, but I would say going back a decade, throughout my entire lifetime, in fact, we've been hearing from both Democrats and Republicans that they're concerned about civil liberties, they're concerned about the Fourth Amendment, they're concerned about government overreach. At the same time, we know, or I believe we know, correct me if I'm wrong on these numbers, that almost half of the NSA budget these days, or the intelligence budget, is going to private for-profit corporations, like the company that Ed Snowden worked for. And I'm assuming that those companies are very involved in this information gathering and sorting and whatnot. To what extent is the failure of the Republican Party, outside of a few libertarians like Justin Amash and Rand Paul, and the Democratic Party, by and large, which mounted some resistance to this in the House, but not enough. I mean, they didn't have the numbers to ever have enough, but you know what I'm talking about here. There were still Democrats who voted for this. To what extent are the people who are voting for this doing so because they're being lobbied by corporations that are making a profit off messing with our privacy, frankly?
Look, I think the lobbying expenditures by the national or by the security industry, the defense industry, are astronomical. There's no question about that. And frankly, as a transparency and accountability organization, we want more transparency around those lobbying efforts. We want to know who those lobbyists are meeting with. Who are they talking to? You know, and what are they saying?
And who are they giving money to, and how much?
And we have a sense, certainly, because of campaign finance disclosure laws, of where the money is coming from. So you could probably do a link between some of these, you know, these corporations involved in national security, in the national security industry, and then, you know, link them up with members of Congress and kind of see if there's any correlation between the votes. You know, I think though the other piece of it is just, you know, members of Congress are really hesitant to kind of open the door to anything that might look like they are less than 110% strong on defense. There is nothing that anybody is advocating in this bill that would make us less secure from foreign threats. None of the amendments that are being offered, none of the bills that are being offered have anything actually at all to do with what we can do to investigate potential foreign threats. It's
right.
Not about what's going on outside of our borders, or, you know, with the threats that we're watching over, you know, that may be involved in terrorism. That is not what we're talking about here. What we are talking about here, what we've tried to fix here, and what we haven't, is again whether U.S. citizens are being targeted without a warrant.
Which brings us back to the
national security.
Right, which brings us back to the argument that was made during the Patriot Act, and you know, in the mid 2000s, in the first decade of the century, that you know, what are you going to do if you've got somebody who, say, you know, their parents are Saudis, but they were born in the United States, they're U.S. citizens, and they've decided, and I shouldn't pick on Saudi Arabia, it's not unique to that country, but you know, somebody from that region where ISIS and the theology that inspires ISIS, which would be more Saudi Arabia, would be more ISIS coming out of, say, Syria or something, or Iraq, decides inside the United States, a U.S. citizen decides that they're going to join ISIS and, you know, blow up Times Square or something. Does this inhibit our ability to prevent domestic acts of terrorism?
This has nothing, the concern that we're focused on has nothing to do with domestic acts of terrorism. The concern we're focused on really is the FBI going to be going through this database, for example, at the direction of Jeff Sessions, who, you know, has recently announced that he is going to more strongly enforce federal marijuana laws, federal drug laws, you know, a reversal from the Obama administration, even in states that have legalized marijuana. The concern has nothing to do with terrorism. The concern has to do with whether the FBI is going to use this database to find any kind of evidence of, you know, illicit or illegal drug use, and then go after people for that. So that is
wow.
It's not about terrorism. Our concern is about truly unrelated civil or U.S. crimes that are unrelated to terrorism.
That's incredible. So I sent an email to Nigel, you know, my webmaster in the UK, about anything, and now they're on my email account, and then I sent a note to my wife saying, you know, want to smoke some pot tonight, and boom, I get busted by Jeff Sessions. Incredible. Lisa Rosenberg, thank you. You're brilliant.